What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host, and this is our special edition Cuts episode. Actually, I shouldn't really act all excited because that means people are losing their jobs and getting released from teams. But we're bringing you additional content. If you check the feed, there's a Deshaun Watson podcast as well. He got a contract extension. We talk about Keenan Allen, and naturally, there's some Dak Prescott talk on there. But let's get to the cut day in the NFL. It's always a tough day around the league, and clearly, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who are out of jobs. It's unfortunate, but it is, you know, it's an important part of the NFL business. I will say that this is a weirder year than ever because there's a lot of undrafted free agents and sort of unknown guys who are going to be cut or put on practice squad. Usually you see teams try and snake guys that they have film on, like saw somebody in a preseason game. There's no film on anybody. And the coaches kept it pretty, you know, some coaches didn't even use names on the back of jerseys so the opponents can't figure out who they're watching when they're checking out film. Very, a lot of subterfuge and strategery by these NFL teams. Joining me to talk about the cuts, Ryan Wilson, of course, and the cut master himself, John Breech, who ran a live blog, a cut live blog, and a cut tracker on Saturday while breastfeeding a baby.
You know, I did not breastfeed the baby. We have a bottle for the baby. And I only ran the tracker. Josh Edwards, Brian Yardo, and Jeff Kerr ran the live blog. And you know what? Since
you couldn't do them both by yourself?
The baby said, please only write one, Dad. You can't do two and feed me at the same time. And you called me the cut master. So I'm going to tell you my cut day story real quick. Was I in the NFL ever? I was not, but my dad was. And I remember vividly, it was the end of August in 1993. My dad got cut. He came back and, like, you know, there's no internet then, so you don't know about this stuff till they get home. And I remember him walking in the door. He sits us all down and says, hey, look, my NFL career is probably over. He was 37 at the time, so it wasn't a huge surprise they had drafted a kicker that year. And I remember crying at the table for like 20 minutes. And my first thought was that I was going to go to school tomorrow, the next day, and that I was in sixth grade at the time, and all the kids in school were going to make fun of me because my dad got cut from the Bengals.
Pretty selfish of you.
Well, that's how a sixth grade kid thinks. So now you know what these kids are going through.
Did they make fun of you?
They did
no,
not.
Of course not.
Did anybody really even care?
No, they
No,
don't
of
talk
course
about it.
not.
It's too, nobody wants to make fun of you. Like,
You think they knew?
That's a job. Yeah, I'm sure they knew. He had played for the Bengals for 13 years.
I mean, I don't think these sixth graders are like, oh, no, they cut our kicker.
It was a big – they actually cut Chris Collinsworth that day also.
Yeah,
There
they
you
didn't. Nobody's talking about your dad. No offense to your dad. He's a great dude.
All-time leading scorer, man.
Hey, man, Chris Collinsworth got cut the same day. They ain't talking about Papa Breech. People aren't, like, dunking on you because of if they weren't talking about Chris – did they talk about Chris Collinsworth that day?
You know, I don't remember.
Breech, the lesson here
I
is
blocked out all the memories.
if you ever need to feel better about yourself, do not come to Brinson with your problems.
Well, I would – yeah, I learned that lesson early, very early.
Brinson's the guy you call when you're on the bridge saying, I'm thinking about jumping, and he screams into the phone, jump! Just jump! And make sure you take a video so I can tweet about it.
How long do we have to talk, man? What's going on here? Anyway, that's a good story. I don't blame you, Breech. That is
Too late. Breech has already jumped off the bridge.
Okay.
Already.
Don't need to make anyway. Josh Rosen, a big story on Friday as he was cut by the Miami Dolphins, meaning that Josh Rosen, when he gets another job, will be on his third team in less than 3 years, having been drafted 10th overall by the Arizona Cardinals in the well thought of 2017 NFL.
And he'll be on like his 19th offensive coordinator.
I was going to say, since college, how many offensive coordinators do you think he's had? His next offensive coordinator will be number what?
2018 draft. Sorry, not 17.
6? I know it's a pretty high number.
It's not 6. Next offensive coordinator since college, Brinson, will be how many for Josh Rosen?
See, 1,
He's
2.
gonna count.
Are you counting Chan Gailey?
You can count Chan Gailey, sure.
Okay, so that's 3. I think 3 with the Dolphins, and 2 with the Cardinals, and so we'll say 7.
He will be on OC number 9.
Ah, I was close.
No, you were close.
insane.
You did
How
good.
many-
You're
how many
good at.
years is that?
What'd you say?
How
So
many years?
3. So 3 at UCLA, 2 in Arizona, Oh, no, he had 3 in Arizona.
Yeah. No, he had Mike McCoy, Byron Leftwich.
And Cliff Kingsbury.
Well, he got traded. I guess he was
never
he was
played for Kingsbury, so I don't think that counts.
He was
He
there for a
learned the
few
system,
practices.
and they were running him the system. He did the practices before the draft. It absolutely counts.
Well, yeah, okay. Either
2
way,
weeks of OTAs where you couldn't do anything on the field yet.
Well, but they were saying Josh is our guy before the draft.
He didn't.
They're telling people they're going to draft Nick Bosa.
Right. They also said that.
So that counts.
That's fine. Okay, you're at 8. My point is he's had 9. He's had a lot.
No, I'm saying you're at 10.
Okay, 10.
His next one will be his 10th offensive coordinator since college. That is crazy. Tough for Josh.
So on the we talked briefly about Keenan Allen's contract on the Deshaun Watson podcast. You mentioned Allen Robinson, who really hasn't had a quarterback to throw him the ball. What's going on with Josh Rosen? Like, is it the fact that he's playing for teams where the offensive coordinator changes every week? Is it more him? I mean, he was the 10th overall pick, and this is now year 3 of a really disappointing NFL career.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like he's had a bad shake, but I
they
just
couldn't
wonder.
even get anything in. The team wouldn't even trade for him. They tried to trade him.
Yeah, I'm just saying he was drafted where he was taken. He was drafted 10th overall in 2018 by the Cardinals. They had an awful offensive line. The receivers weren't that great either. Larry Fitzgerald old, Christian Kirk a rookie. The Mike McCoy's offense was a disaster. And then, they take Kyler Murray, and then he gets traded to Miami, and then, plays half a year behind a bad offensive line with a questionable offense.
He got benched for a truly terrible Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick
was pretty good. Fitzpatrick was probably the best quarterback in the AFC East last year.
Tom Brady wasn't?
No, I guess
Fitzpatrick was better than Tom Brady last year.
Come on now.
Beat him head-to-head week 17.
Debo, can you cut that and put it on Twitter?
You don't have to Google it. We know that the Dolphins beat the Patriots. But I don't think anyone thinks Ryan Fitzpatrick, even Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Why would I be Googling if the Patriots beat the Dolphins?
You Google a lot of weird things. My point is, what's this mean for Josh Rosen?
Here's the weird thing is I do feel like if you watch the Cardinals in 2018 when he had those 13.
Patrick was higher than Brady in QBR.
No, QBR. Go ahead, Breech.
An invented stat.
Fitzpatrick led the Dolphins in rushing.
Did lead the Dolphins in rushing.
That's incredible.
Very true.
I know.
But look, Rosen, he made some phenomenal throws. You're like, that guy, that is why he was the 10th overall pick in the draft. But then he just looked confused a lot. He throws a lot of interceptions, and sometimes he just doesn't know.
He gets stacked a ton, too.
Yeah, and like, you guys mentioned the offensive line was bad, so it's partly that, but also partly that he looks indecisive a lot when he's on the field. And so maybe if he's with, in the same system for 2 years, he can thrive. But he's not the only person that has had to deal with this kind of obstacles to start an NFL career. Not everyone gets to play with 2 or 1 offensive coordinator in their first 2 years. And so the NFL is all about adjusting. It doesn't seem like he's been able to do that. So, now that he's a free agent, that's good because he can look for a system where he could possibly thrive. So, maybe he should get that third chance because he can handpick his team now. But I think this is going to be his final chance because if you can handpick your team and you can't succeed in that situation, then you're kind of done.
Yeah, so, yeah. Go ahead.
Who are the teams that should be interested in Josh Rosen or Josh Rosen should be interested in them?
I mean, the Patriots will probably be involved. No.
Okay.
The Saints signed Jameis, so I guess not. Why wouldn't you want the Steelers to take a chance?
Yep. Just by default. I mean, is he worse than Mason Rudolph is the first question you have to ask. And the answer is probably not. Right?
I think the Panthers are a team that should take a look.
Why not? Who's the backup?
You have Teddy Bridgewater on that deal.
Oh, they have Will Grier. Is he number 2, Will Grier?
Come on.
PJ Walker, too.
PJ Walker. That's right. Yeah. So, like the Redskins? I mean, we're going to talk about Alex Smith in a second, but Nikes. Add to let me get the tote board out. I'll go.
Ryan's gonna have
How big is this check gonna be? Ryan,
honey, why did you pay our mortgage an extra time? Nope, that's my R word podcast charge.
That's 4 to 0.
Yep.
That's terrible.
That is terrible.
Dang it. The Washington Football Club, should they consider him?
Probably, but we'll get to them in a second. I wouldn't expect that they will do it.
Maybe the Buccaneers. He be reunited with Byron Leftwich, so he would actually have some familiarity, which he doesn't seem to have with anyone.
What about the Bears? Nick Foles just lost the job.
Bears would be interesting.
How many mediocre quarterbacks can you put on one team?
I don't know. That's the Steelers.
Wah, wah. But yeah, it's not a good situation to be in for Josh Rosen right now because, as Breech points out, if you can't make it work this time around, it's not them. It's probably you.
By the way, since 2006, don't ask me why. Just the season I clicked. Quarterbacks who have had combined seasons, so this is their career numbers, with more than 250 pass attempts and a sack percentage of over 10. There are only 9 guys on that list: Andrew Walter, JT O'Sullivan, Cody Kessler, Josh Rosen, Dante Culpepper actually checked the box from 2006 to 2009, Tim Tebow, JP Losman, Charlie Fry, and TJ Yates. Not a good list.
No, it's definitely not a good list.
It just makes you, I mean, like, he's been behind bad offensive lines. And by the way, for those Culpepper years, that was Miami, Oakland, and Detroit in those 4 years. This is bad Culpepper. Like when he fell off a cliff and signed with
he played with
Miami.
the Raiders?
We got traded to that's
No, Nick Saban signed him over Drew Brees.
I remember that. I don't remember him playing for the Raiders.
I do. I remember thinking Dante Culpepper's going to be awesome because he'll look great in silver and black. And then that's not the case. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that you can blame all of the sacks on Rosen because of those bad offensive lines, but I do think it's telling that Kyler Murray can come in behind a similar offensive line with some slight upgrades and the offense is just not as stagnant. Now, he's had better coaching and all of that. But look, like, we got to credit the Cardinals for moving on from Rosen. I mean, if they'd stuck with Rosen, they might be in a really, really bad spot right now. And they
would be.
You feel great about their long-term future because they have Kyler Murray. We said it leading up to the 2019 NFL draft and said it incorrectly. Like I said, I'd rather have Nick Bosa and Josh Rosen than Kyler Murray. That's just me. Steve Keim and the Cardinals brass got aggressive, and they went after a back-to-back first-round pick in a quarterback in Kyler Murray, and that was a very smart move in hindsight.
No, I agree. And at the time, I was like, I would not use that pick on Kyler Murray.
I almost like the idea.
You can build around Josh Rosen.
I didn't like the idea. It wasn't even that it was Josh Rosen. It's that if you take Kyler Murray, you threw away the 10th overall pick in the draft. That's the problem.
No, we weren't. It had nothing to do with Josh Rosen versus Kyler Murray. Like, I think we all agreed that we would like Kyler Murray over Josh Rosen.
Right.
But
just
it was
that
about
you can't
the
draft
opportunity cost of not getting Nick Bosa, basically.
There you go. Well done.
So the Bengals claim him?
Yes.
I was waiting.
Bengals need a good backup quarterback, Brinson.
Ooh. Not a good day for NC State quarterbacks. We mentioned the Washington football team. They did not put Alex Smith. He was not cut, which I don't think was a big surprise, but he was also not placed on the injured list. So it means Alex Smith is very much in the mix. He might just be the backup quarterback. Kyle Allen, who knows if Kyle Allen will even be involved. And instead, it's Alex Smith who makes the team and will apparently be healthy enough to play. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's on the team, even if he doesn't see the field. Are we still of the opinion that he deserves comeback player of the year? Because I am.
Yes. And I think this is an interesting decision because they could have put him on injured reserve. He's getting paid $16 million a year no matter what. They could have cut him. He was getting that money. Put him on injured reserve. He's getting that money. Put him on the active roster. He's obviously getting that money because he's on the active roster. But it was absolutely guaranteed. So they could have done anything. And the fact that they're using a roster spot on him, I think is very fascinating. And it makes me think that they're at least contemplating, maybe putting him on the field, or maybe they just like having him around to help Dwayne Haskins get better.
Do you think he could be he could take like an honorary first snap or something?
That would be nice.
And take a knee?
Would it? First snap of the season is a 1-yard loss. That's a strong start.
Or I think that's something you do maybe after he goes through this season and is like, you know what? After going through all the practices and he's like, my leg just can't take this anymore. I think I'm going to retire. You let him take the honorary snap in week 17.
When you're 3-13.
Right. And then you
right.
Because that's the only reason anybody would be watching Washington in week 17 in December. So
What if they changed their name in week 17? What was their name before Breech?
The Murder Hornets.
Okay. Also,
Only I fall for that one.
in WTF news, elsewhere in WTF news, let's get it. Washington,
Oh, I saw that today.
WFT.
Yeah, Jason Lockenport tweeted that, and I didn't understand what he was talking about.
Yeah. You didn't understand WFT he was talking about?
I didn't understand. Now I get it.
Adrian Peterson, the Hall of Fame running back, was cut by the Washington football team. What do you think this means for the backfield? The buzz and the speculation is that they like Bryce Love and that they love Antonio Gibson.
Well, Bryce Love, they drafted him after he came off that ACL injury, which is sort of curious. A year after drafting Darius Geis, who had suffered the ACL injury in his very first carry, and now he's obviously gone. Antonio Gibson had 33 carries in college as a running back. He played wide receiver. He played all over the place. I tell you what, there's a lot of wear and tear on him. But they played him at running back at the Senior Bowl, and he was running over people. I think he ran a 4.3 or 4.4 something in the combine. So clearly they liked him enough to move on from Adrian Peterson. Let me ask you this. Who gets signed first, Adrian Peterson or Josh Rosen?
Woo! I think Adrian Peterson.
I do too.
I think
plug and play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. By the way, it's frustrating that they have Antonio Gibson and Antonio Gandy Golden. That's too much Antonio G's for my liking.
Just AG and AGG.
Yeah, although I like both players. I think Gibson, they also have Peyton Barber, J.D. McKissick. So not a, I think we tend to think of the Washington football team as being this AP's been there for a few years. They're going to run the ball and be, I think they're going to pass the ball a ton. Dwayne Haskins is going to have a lot of passing attempts. So Peyton Barber, good pass catcher.
Listen to our Bold Predictions podcast on Tuesday. You'll hear me talk up Terry McLaurin, who needs to catch a lot of passes based on one of my bold predictions.
Terry McLaurin, that's a good tease, Ryan.
Yeah. Listen to the Bold Predictions podcast coming on Tuesday after the holiday. Also, another running back that was cut. Lamar Miller, cut by the New England football team. Miller, 29-year-old, signed in free agency after he got a big contract from the Texans a few years back. There was some thought that he might come in and actually be an impact guy for New England and that he could challenge Sony Michel and Damian Harris for playing time. Clearly, that's not the case. Now New England is left with Michel, Harris, who apparently has some kind of hand injury, James White, the king of PPR, Rex Burkhead, and J.J. Taylor. Any thoughts on that backfield?
My thought is that, sorry, if you're playing fantasy football, that is just absolutely confusing. I have no idea what's going on. It's a nightmare. Belichick just does whatever he wants. You don't know. You never know who's going to be back there.
That is correct.
Yeah, Damian Harris was a 3rd-round pick last year. He barely played, so maybe this is the year that it happens.
Well, he's been awesome in camp, and then he suffered what I think Mike Reese of ESPN reported was a hand injury. So Sony Michel now back off the pup. Maybe Sony Michel off the injured list. Maybe Sony Michel gets another chance to get 40 carries and 40 yards and 3 touchdowns per game. The Raiders, speaking of running back news, the Raiders traded Lynn Bowden to the Miami Dolphins. It's a bit shocking because the Raiders took Lynn Bowden with the 3rd-round pick in this year's draft, Ryan.
Yeah, sort of like Antonio Gibson, who we were just talking about. He was he played all over the place in Kentucky and played quarterback for a handful of games because the starter was injured. So they were using him as a running back in Oakland, Las Vegas now, excuse me. Need another swear jar for that. It sounds like the Dolphins are interested in trying him more at wide receiver. But versatility is its strong suit. And you could certainly make an argument that there are a lot more playmakers on that Las Vegas roster than there are on the Dolphins roster. Devontae Parker, your guy. I don't know if he's back practicing yet, but he hadn't practiced recently. So the more weapons, all the better. And clearly the Raiders felt like they could part with him. So 3rd-round pick's a lot to pay for a guy you trade 4 months later.
It sure is. Surprise, Breech? Do you care?
I mean, the Raiders made some interesting moves. They cut Demarius Randall. They cut a lot of guys on defense. A couple guys I think that people maybe thought were going to make the roster. It's just total chaos in Vegas. And I am surprised that you get rid of someone, especially who can play potentially multiple positions. And what are the Dolphins going to do with them? So this is
it's just weird to use a 3rd-round pick on somebody. And then, he must have had an awful camp.
But then trade away
a 3rd-round pick
in return. So, what are the Dolphins don't have any NFL film on them because it's not like the Raiders were sending him anything from training camp.
Right.
So the whole situation is pretty bizarre. I'm surprised. That is my reaction to this.
And finally, the most important cut of the day, former first-round pick, Laquan Treadwell, cut by the Falcons, thus ending the dream of the Atlanta Falcons to put 11 former first-round picks out there on offense. They've tweeted about it nonstop this offseason. I've made fun of them nonstop this offseason. I got a lot of tweets when Laquan Treadwell got cut. Now, Russell Gage, who was going to be the starter at nickel anyway, or at slot anyway, will be out there, and not Laquan Treadwell. R.I.P. to the dream that was that thing.
Yeah. Well, they could still sign another first-round pick. They could sign Josh Rosen. Boom, done. And Adrian Peterson. 2 more.
Boom.
Nothing. All right. I thought there was a chance. I don't know what you were doing
One
there.
interesting cut.
Why keep running? Usually it stops.
From the Packers with Jake Kumerow, because Aaron Rodgers literally had been talking about him in the past 48 hours as someone. Kumer's a wide receiver, and Rodgers talked about him like this guy is a lock to make the roster. And it's almost like the Packers front office heard that and like, how can we screw over Aaron again? You know what, Jake? Why don't you come in here, bring your playbook, and we're kicking you out of town. So they cut him less than 48 hours after Rodgers basically said he was locked to make the roster. So some of these things are just befuddling with what's going on in Green Bay. It's like they're just trying to torch the team chemistry there.
Former high draft picks, Paxton Lynch was cut by the Steelers. Also former Carolina player, Ryan Switzer, who's been who reminds me of who's a receiver from Varsity Blues? Tweeter? He's like a real life tweeter. Tweeter! So he's tan.
That's Tweeter your favorite character from that movie?
Yeah, I know that's not Tweeter who said she's
So worth noting, Paxton Lynch was the guy that John Elway traded up for in the first round, and he could not beat out Duck Hodges.
And Paxton Lynch is the guy that the Cowboys wanted to draft the year that they drafted Dak Prescott. But when the Broncos traded up and grabbed Paxton Lynch, and then the Raiders snaked Connor Cook later on in the draft, the Cowboys had to settle for Dak Prescott. So good job by you guys. The Jaguars cut my boy Mike Glennon and
that's sad,
Josh Dobbs, which means that the quarterback position in Jacksonville is just Gardner Minshew and Jake Luton, who is just another like young Jaguars guy that Pete Prisco is leaking to the world that has been great. I mean, just like every young Jaguar is like, well, this team's really coming together. They're putting it together.
What if the Jaguars actually cut every quarterback on the roster?
And
no, we're not tanking.
We're a single wing.
Yeah, we're not tanking.
And trade for Leonard Fournette from the Buccaneers.
That'd be pretty incredible. Yeah, I mean, look, that sucks for Mike. I guess he's coming back to Carolina now. I don't know if he'll. I would expect that he could get. I would expect that he could find a job backing up somebody. Like, wouldn't you rather have Mike Glennon than Mason Rudolph?
I mean,
maybe, yeah, I think having a veteran is definitely a plus.
Yeah, but
Mike Glennon's won some football games in this league.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I get it.
Ryan sounds hesitant. Ryan, why is hesitant? What's your beef with Mike Glennon, man?
Yeah.
Just get it out right now.
He went to NC State.
Brinson friends with him? And a friend of a friend is an enemy? Or enemy of a friend? Whatever? Is that what it is?
Wilson hates anything I like is what it boils down to.
Yeah, that's what
the Colts released Andrew Vollert, the Hard Knock star, who's probably going to work out for the Carolina Panthers. And Devo, quit digging through my Twitter tweets. And then most importantly, we'll wrap up on this one. Colts cut Chase McLaughlin, which means that Breech's boy, Rodrigo Blankenship, the man with the glasses, is your new Colts kicker. How excited on a 1 to 10 scale are you, Breech?
Definitely a 9.5. I'm glad that Rodrigo made the roster. And the thing is, you don't hear about these kicking competitions because that's one of those things you can see in preseason games. If a kicker goes 0 for 3, a rookie kicker especially, he's going to get cut. But we have no idea what's been going on. I was actually surprised that Rodrigo didn't get drafted because the Patriots took the first kicker in the draft. That was Justin Rohrasser. And I don't even know if he's going to make the roster there because I think they brought in Nick Folk. So he might end up being their kicker. And Tyler Bass made the roster in Buffalo. I thought he was the second best kicker in the draft. But it is very interesting. I will say that rookie kickers are all over the place. The Colts lost a couple games last year because of their kicking situation. So definitely keep an eye on every team that has a rookie kicker, because sometimes they struggle like badly, and then sometimes they just put it all together and they're good. So it'll be interesting.
You mentioned that you were surprised Blankenship didn't get drafted. What about the Buccaneers track record drafting kickers? Like, how high are you willing to draft a kicker? Because Matt Gay, they just cut. Was he a third-round pick? Fifth round pick. And then
but he was the first kicker taken in that draft.
And then Aguayo, a few years before that, was what round did he go in?
Second. And they traded up for him.
Lord
so that was a disaster. You can't trade up and take a kicker in the second round. And I don't have a problem with teams drafting kickers. I know a lot of people out there will say, well, I think there's a lot of undrafted free agent kickers, but if you want first crack at the best kicker, you take a flyer on one in like the 6th or 7th round. I don't think you need to do anything earlier unless there is that generational talent. Obviously we saw Sebastian Janikowski, first round kicker. But
he's literally the only one.
Yeah.
Who was the kid out of Florida State that was drafted and was not very good, like 15 years ago?
Aguayo?
No, before him. There was another. He was like a second, third round pick, and he didn't work out as well. Because I don't know if any other kicker been any.
Was it Nugent?
No, Nugent got drafted by the Jets, I think, in 2005. So the bottom line is you don't need to take a kicker early. The top 4 rounds, you probably should not be spending your picks on a kicker. And it doesn't happen that often. I think the last kicker taken before the 5th round was Aguayo, and that was back in 2014. And then before that, it was a while before that. I think it was the Patriots, maybe Gostkowski. I know he was a 4th rounder. So it happens few and far between, which is why you shouldn't do it.
That it does. By the way, Deebo Samuel will be activated from the NFI list. Oh, Shakeem Griffin was cut by the friend of the program, Shakeem Griffin. He and Shaquille Griffin, brother, were on the podcast. And Shaquem, of course, a great story because he has one hand, or one arm, I guess, and made the NFL team. But then the Seahawks are loaded at linebacker, so they felt that they could move on. Anything else?
No.
That was a surprise cut.
Yeah, it was. That's why I included it in all the
That's why you talked about it. That's why you brought
I
it up.
included it in the rundown. All right, let's get out of here. That's the Cuts podcast. We'll be back Tuesday with Bulb. Or we back Monday or Tuesday, Debo? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
See, I like this. Under the new regime with Debo serving as a buffer between us and the bosses, we get a holiday. Labor Day off.
Guys, busting out 2 at 4 o'clock on a Saturday.
That's right.
With lots of content. We got 8 pods a week, maybe more coming starting on Tuesday.
Is that right?
Oh
we do 8 podcasts a week.
Starts in like 5 days.
We have to do 8 podcasts a week. Imagine if we had to do like anything else as part of our
minimum.
Time. Right, 8 podcasts a week. Imagine if we had to do like another show. Be insane.
Are you teasing something, Brinson?
No.
Surprise?
I'm saying that would be a lot of work. I'm not here to work. I'm here to watch football and drink beer.
I love beer.
I do love beer too. I'm having a new Anthem double dry hopped.
Brinson, you got to get to the pool. I don't know why you're still talking. Labor Day pool time for the Brinson family.
All right, we're going to get to the pool. Have a great holiday, everybody. Talk to you soon. See you on Tuesday.